one of my really, really favourite monuments from the whole of Roman Britain. And what this app does is it lets you actually get into it, get into the monument, get to the story of the people who put it up and are commemorated here. And if you look at it at first, it looks like a bit of grey bit of stone, frankly. But there's a wonderful story that comes out of it that we can really start to explore. One of the most fun bits here is that it is actually in the Latin text. And what the app does is it lets you paint it in and really bring the letters to life. Now, whenever I look at a Roman tombstone, I'm afraid I always do look at what the words say first. What this shows you is that although it's quite hard to read in the original, it brings to life the real clarity with which the red painted letters, and the red paint's long gone, the red painted letters really tell you who's commemorated here. And it's a lady called Regina, and she is a freedwoman, an ex-slave and a wife, and her ex-master, then husband, was a man who really now stands out. He's called Braunarts of Palmyra. He's from Palmyra in Syria, and in fact what is really interesting is that underneath that very nice Latin inscription, which gives you her sort of basic, CV, you have an inscription in Aramaic, which I have to say I can't read Aramaic, but this does say Braunarts to his ex-slave Regina, alas. So my first thought is to think, gosh, this is really interesting. Now, we don't truly know who Braunarts was, but we can see very clearly how he represented his dead wife. You can actually rather cleverly colour her in, because all these tombstones, very often they were actually originally painted. They look very kind of dull to us, rather grey stone, but they would have been much brighter. This app is really brilliant because it lets me kind of give her a lovely blue dress. Oh, wow! I think that this is just splendid because, first of all, it reminds us that the Roman world wasn't entirely grey. It's not just that she's got a nice blue dress, but my goodness me, she's sitting here on her chair. She's got lovely necklace here, a headdress. She's holding all kinds of things. She's got what looks to me like a sort of money box down on one side of her, and on the other side of her she's got what every Roman woman always had next to her, the wool basket, because what the woman's job in Rome was always to do was to weave and spin wool, and she's holding some kind of spindle in her hand. And actually, the more you see her, the more you actually bring up the accoutrements, the trinkets that she's got, the more she starts to look Palmyran. Because you go to Palmyra and the tombstones, they don't look exactly like this. But what Braunarts has done, and who on earth did it for him in Rome and Britain, we don't know. But what he's done is he's actually constructed an image of his nice little St Albans wife, sort of dressed up as if she was a Roman matron in part, but even more, a kind of Roman matron from Syria, and all this stuff. Amazing. If only she lived to see it. Tombstones of this kind, they're really difficult to know to date exactly. We can't really tell when this was inscribed, when poor old Regina died aged 30, or what Braunarts is doing. But there is a possible clue, which is intriguing. It would be very nice to link up, that we do have from a fort on Hadrian's Wall, fort at what is now modern Corbridge. We have a tombstone of a guy also called Braunarts, who was a standard bearer, an army standard bearer, who actually lived up to the age of 68. If this Braunarts we've got as an army standard bearer was the same Braunarts who was the husband of poor old Regina, then we're going to date this tombstone to the early 3rd century, to quite a lot of activity in Roman Britain associated with the Emperor Septimius Severus, a Roman emperor who actually died in Britain. So here's some bit of this rather benighted province really linked to the centre of the Roman world. There was an emperor who himself had been born in Libya. What I think is really great about this app is it lets you actually explore some of the ways that Roman Britain is much more interesting and much more complicated than you might think at first sight. And it takes you into a world in Roman Britain which is quite different from the world we often imagine.